You're listening to the Unwritable Rant podcast with your host and bourbon-soaked storyteller, Juliette Miranda.
Hey there, y'all. I'm Juliette Miranda, and welcome to episode 234 of the Unwritable Rant podcast. I have a bourbon-soaked story for you today about conditional couples and a social scorecard. But first, I want to tell you about Sacred Hollow. Sacred Hollow is a modern witch box service that crafts beautifully unique boxes for modern witches. Every item is carefully selected for each box, and no two boxes are the same. Every item placed in your box is cleansed with smoke and sound, ensuring your box is free of any lingering energies. You were born with magic in your soul. Let Sacred Hollow be part of your magical journey. Visit sacredhollowbox.com for more information on individual and subscription box services, as well as magical items for your everyday practice. Whew, it has been a crazy week here in New Orleans, y'all. I am very grateful to say that my guy and I are completely safe from two hurricanes that thankfully completely missed us out here in the French Quarter. Our thoughts are with our friends who live in Lake Charles and the area around there because, wow, that Hurricane Laura was a beast. Crazy times here, y'all. Crazy, crazy times. Although for my guy and I, well, us being us, we've been spending a lot of time outside at what I like to call restaurant bars. These are a thing here in New Orleans right now because bars currently, they're shut down because of fucking COVID. Restaurants, however, are open, which is just the dumbest fucking thing ever, as if the act of eating at a table is somehow more safe than drinking at one. I'll tell you though, New Orleans, it's nothing if not resourceful. And bars are kind of rebranding themselves and opening as restaurants. So long as they have properly spaced tables and a menu, it is all good. And for this I am glad, because it allows some of our favorite places to be open. My guy and I can support our local gig economy as much as possible, and we can go out and drink, of course. Plus, and here's the best part, we've had the chance to meet a lot of our neighbors in the community. And we've gotten very friendly with a wonderful couple who lives a few streets over from us. Truly, they are a ton of fun, and they even invited us over for dinner recently. Amazingly, my guy and I did not fuck it up. I am so proud of us. Not that we ever deliberately try to fuck things up. We've just found that on occasion we're a little much for certain couples to invite back. Usually it's something as simple as a compatibility issue. You know, it could be our boozy tastes, our sense of humor, maybe our lack of decorum. And I totally get it. I do. I mean, we're all different people with different perspectives, and that's fine. I don't need or even want everyone to like us. Lord knows I definitely do not like everyone. Sometimes, though, even when all of our personalities line up and we've had successful couple outings, my guy and I still manage to send everything to hell. Like we did with a couple that I will call the Oscars. We met them in Nashville, of all places, where we bonded over our shared love of whiskey and our hatred of millennial bars. We boot-scooted and bar-hopped with them for a few hours, and were pleasantly surprised to discover that they lived a few towns away from us in the Chicago suburbs. When they suggested that we exchange phone numbers, I never really expected that we would hear from them. I mean, that's usually how these things roll. You get caught up in the moment with someone you dig, and then promptly lose their identity in the bowels of your cell phone. Hell, I'd pretty much forgotten about them myself. But 2 days later, my guy received a text from Jeremy. And me being me, before I'll let my guy even think about responding, I have to scrutinize it. I'm looking for red flags, sketchy language, suspect proposals. I even did a mental spell check, as if accidentally fat-fingering a word in 4 lines of text is going to mystically reveal a crackpot. even under my deranged microscope, there was nothing to criticize. Jeremy had made a completely reasonable suggestion that we try out a new whiskey bar, one that was located almost exactly between our two homes. It was a low-key, low-pressure invite that even I couldn't find reason to refuse. Still, I was a little apprehensive going in. I always am when it comes to people. I just don't trust them. As we Ubered to the bar to meet the Oscars, I briefed my guy on what used to be my single girl's guide to not getting murdered. It's common sense stuff, really. Never leave your drink unattended, keep an emergency $50 bill on you, memorize the fire exits. And yes, I realize that this sounds insane, but what did we know of the Oscars, really? He was a corporate recruiter, she was a photographer. We had zero proof that they didn't also stuff their pillows with human hair. My guy gives me a very smug look when we get to the bar and find the same normal couple we met in Nashville. Jan smiles and waves us over. Handshakes and hugs go around, and we settle in for a really nice night of good cocktails and good conversation. The whole experience was so pleasant and murder-free that we continued to meet up with the Oscars several more times over the next couple of months. There were dinners, movies, more bar nights. Jan even invited me to speak at her book club. To be honest, for as much fun as I was having with the Oscars, I really, really did not want to do Jan's book club. Speaking at a book club always makes me feel like I did when my parents would trot me out in front of relatives and force me to play the piano. But Jan was so insistent, and she seemed so excited about having me there that I gave in. But I did have one condition. No one was allowed to buy my stupid book. Instead, I would bring copies for everyone when I got there. That way, no one felt obligated to read it, and I wouldn't feel compelled to tap dance. It was the perfect solution. It really was. I mean, especially since the women were really just there to drink wine and gossip. Jan was actually the only one who didn't seem to be enjoying herself. She spent most of the afternoon sitting alone and looking vaguely peeved. At the time, her mood seemed odd, but not especially concerning. I just figured she was having a shitty day. Little did I know that I was the cause of it. You see, Jan and her husband are what I now like to call conditional friends. And surprisingly, it was my guy who was the first one to notice it. My guy is never the one to think anything but the best of people. But this time around, it was different. One morning, he brings his laptop over to me. He's got a string of emails from Jeremy open on it, and he wants me to read them to, as he put it, see if they seem weird. Well, they start out normal enough. Jeremy invited my guy on a corporate golf outing. He positioned it as a great way to get back into golf, which is something that my guy had been looking to do, and he said it would be a great way to meet some local business people. Nothing weird there. Jeremy wraps up the note by saying he was so sure my guy would be into it that he had already paid for the foursome. All right, that's a little presumptuous, but it's not entirely weird. So I read my guy's response to him, and he says that he's unable to attend, not because he doesn't want to, but because he had to be out of town for work. And Jeremy was, well, it's kind of hard to say exactly what Jeremy was. In his initial response to my guy, Jeremy seemed fine. But then he sent a follow-up email with some sulky thoughts. He didn't outright call my guy rude, but he definitely implied it by saying that my guy should be more considerate when a friend gives him an opportunity. Jeremy's email had all the makings of a man crush gone sour, which to me sounded more pathetic than it did weird. My guy isn't so sure. He wants to know why Jan and Jeremy have been so keen on our company lately. And in thinking about it, I had to admit that their friendship had gotten more persistent. We'd started hearing from them at least once a week, expecting to get together. And in fact, Jan had just invited us to their Labor Day block party. Isn't that the natural course of friendship, though? I mean, really, friends hang out a lot. They do things for each other. It's not like they were taking us home to meet their parents or something, which I explained to my guy in one of my rare moments of being the rational one in this relationship. And I say, baby, I think you should just let this go. Oh, but my guy, he is on his own crazy jag, connecting made-up dots and imaginary lines to ultimately decide that, get this, the reason the Oscars are being so aggressively friendly with us is because they are swingers. Yeah. No, wait, hear me out here. I know this sounds crazy, but you gotta understand, this wasn't an entirely unreasonable conclusion for my guy to make. Now, let me first just be clear. It's not that we have anything against couples who swing. If that's your thing, have at it. It's not ours. It's just that, for whatever tawdry reason, swingers just seem to take to my guy and I a little too frequently and with a little too much enthusiasm. And we've had to extricate ourselves from some very sticky situations more times than I care to admit. So, as wacky as it sounds, I could still totally understand why my guy was kind of gun-shy about the Oscars, now that they had revealed themselves to be more presuming than we had once thought. Still, they had been nothing but nice to us. Okay, maybe a little too nice, but that didn't necessarily mean the conditions of their friendship was getting it on. My guy wants to back out of the block party. Like, immediately. He is confident that this so-called block party is nothing but a gangbang. Oh, baby, please. Jan had already talked me into entering a chili cook-off, and I was pretty sure that chili usually isn't on the menu at a swinger party. Besides, I didn't want to offend them. And who's to say we couldn't be friends who don't swing? So I tell my guy, let's just go. And if things get weird, we'll leave. It doesn't have to be a big deal. Now, my guy is not thrilled about this, but he agrees. We arrive at their house about an hour before the party is set to start. I had offered to help Jan get things set up, and my guy wanted to get a good parking place in case we needed to leave quickly. It was our first time being at their home, and under usual circumstances, I would be the one secretly looking for a door to an underground torture chamber. This time, it's my guy. From the moment Jan and Jeremy welcome us inside, my guy is on edge. He's like a member of the Bloodhound Gang. They're talking about art that they've collected, and he's peeking inside cabinets as if he's going to find a bowl full of butt plugs instead of lemons stashed away. God, I needed to get him a drink. We all eventually wind up in the garage, which Jeremy opens so he can start arranging chairs on the driveway. Jan and I, meanwhile, set up a table in the back for the chili cook-off. At the last minute, she had asked me to bring an extra hot plate. And rather than buy one that I knew I would never use again, I unearthed the old hot plate I used in Los Angeles. I had found it at a garage sale in the valley. That's how old this thing was, but hell, it still worked just fine, and after we'd gotten my chili to a decent simmer, Jan and I joined the guys on the driveway for a cocktail. My guy seems to have relaxed somewhat, and I'm feeling optimistic. I mean, nothing out of the ordinary had happened. Everyone is talking and laughing, and the truth was, I liked Jan and Jeremy. I enjoyed their company, and I really didn't think that they were grooming us for some sort of elaborate sex game. Until Jeremy kind of clears his throat a little bit, and he says, "So guys, one of the reasons we're happy you could come over early is because we want to talk to you about something." Jan gets up, and she says, "Hold that thought, honey." She dashes off into the house, and my guy gives me a look like, "I fucking told you so." I see him fishing his keys out of his pocket, and as much as I want to be cool and polite, I find myself getting uncomfortably anxious and angry at myself for letting my guard down because clearly, god damn it, my guy is right about these two, and now we're going to have a monumentally awkward conversation that I know will end poorly. Jan returns to us, looking all bright-eyed and breathless, and she is carrying a large, very full envelope. She begins pulling colorful pages out of it and fans them out in front of us. Oh, I do not want to look. I really don't want to look at those because I am convinced it's either dead bodies or porn. Unfortunately, it's worse. It turns out that the condition of friendship with the Oscars is not sex. It's a timeshare. A fucking timeshare. Jan and Jeremy had found a beach condo in Aruba and were asking us for $12,000 to go in halvesies on it. They'd even gone ahead and had the papers drawn up. Oh, my guy and I are just a little too stunned to speak. So the Oscars fill the void. First with a pitch about how much fun the four of us will have. Then with a plea, saying how, as their friends, we should be happy to help them achieve their dream vacation home. I kind of snort when I hear that, and Jan gets defensive. She says, well, if it's about the money, we tried to help you get some extra income. Aha! All right, that explains it. That is what the golf outing and book club were all about. Gee, thanks, sweetheart. With the 2 cents I make off every Amazon book I sell, it would be, I don't know, only 6 million years before I could save up enough for our half of the payment. Oh, my guy and I were just staring at them. Jeremy pipes up and he asks, well, don't you guys have anything to say? A thank you might be nice. No, not really, because I'm still trying to find a subtle but firm way to explain that their idea, though nice, is dramatically inappropriate and I'm just coming up short. My guy has no such tact. He says, dude, you gotta give me a minute. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that you guys aren't swingers. Oh, no love. Silence hits us again, only this time it's the Oscars who get to be appalled. And quite honestly, I'm kind of cringing too because I certainly hadn't planned on letting them in on our original theory. Jan stands up. She is offended beyond reason, and she says, after everything we've done for you, this is what you think of us? That we're swingers? What kind of people are you? Oh, I don't have an answer for that because clearly we're the kind of people so caught up in our own awesomeness that we think everyone wants to have sex with us. Oops, our bad. I don't know if things could be salvaged between us at that point. I was going to try. I mean, at the least I wanted to apologize, but I never got the chance. Because before I could get the words out, we are interrupted by the blaring of a fire alarm in the garage. We all turn around, and we see that my old hot plate has become a blazing inferno. One that has consumed the chili pot and is rapidly threatening to eat the shelving on the wall behind it. I guess it wasn't quite as functional as I had thought. This day can't get any worse. I mean, Jan is screaming at me, just, what have you done? Well, my guy and Jeremy are playing a game of tug of war over the fire extinguisher. Jeremy keeps grabbing and fumbling with a pin and trying to read the instructions. And my guy is forced to yank it away from him. Thankfully, he has experience with these things. So he can douse that wonky hot plate with a thick coating of foam, thankfully putting out the flames before they can do any real damage. Now, the only fire we have to contend with is Jan, who is also foaming at the mouth, and she's screaming. She is saying over and over, I will tell everyone about this. I'll ruin you. You'll never sell another book again. Really? Oh, honey. If you think my accidentally setting a garage on fire is going to be anything more than a blip on my social scorecard, you're going to be very disappointed. By now, neighbors are starting to find their way over. They're loaded up with bags of chips and cases of beer and looking rather startled to find a pile of foam in the garage and Jan screaming her full head off. Jeremy is a little more collected than his other half and pulls her away from us, saying, "I think it's best if you just leave." Good call. My guy and I slink off to the car, avoiding the curious and concerned looks of the neighbors, and quickly get the fuck out of there. To this day, I still feel bad about how things went down with the Oscars. We all could have handled things better. And I know that going forward, my guy and I have really tried to treat our friendships with more consideration and less speculation. As for the Oscars, that wasn't quite the last we heard from them. A week or so after the garage incident, new reviews of my book started popping up on assorted sites. They were all variations of the same point, that I am a selfish, sex-crazed arsonist whose book is best used for lining a litter box. Coincidentally or otherwise, not long after that, I also noticed a sizable bump in book sales. I guess I might be able to afford that beach condo sooner than I thought. Cheers, y'all. Hey, did you know that the Unwritable Rant podcast is celebrating 5 fucking years? Jesus Christ, do you have any idea how much bourbon and words that is? I just want to say thank you so much for being here with me and my boozy journey. It's really cool to be able to share these stories with you, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you listening. So thanks, y'all. And if you want to catch up on any of these crazy boozy stories or any of my celebrity interviews, just go to theunwritablерant.com. Anyway, y'all, I will be back next Sunday with another bourbon-soaked story for you. And who knows, maybe 5 more years of bourbon-soaked stories. So cheers, y'all.
Go to theunwritablерant.com and sign up to get early access to interviews and new videos. And don't forget to connect with Juliette on Twitter at Morning Neurosis.
Girl, you was pretty as a Sunday morning, standing on the corner at Carondelet. What you say we make our way up to Bourbon, couple hurricanes and a hand grenade, and get blown away. Let the chips fall where they may. If it's all the same, what you say, bon ton, hey, pretty mama, I can smell the gumbo. Sweetest taste of honeysuckle on my lips. Good God Almighty, I can hear the trombone. Every heart ought to beat to a rhythm like this. Come a little closer, honey, let me hold you. Nothing tastes better than a bourbon kiss. You can be the flower on my magnolia. Every heart ought to beat to a rhythm like this.